Lieutenant Johnson, ready when you are, sir.
You just want to spell your first last name for us?
First name's Allen, A-L-A-N. Last name is Johnson, J-O-H-N-S-O-N. And I'm a lieutenant with the Greenville Police Department over our traffic division.
Can you just start by giving us just a rundown of what happened this morning?
Well, this morning, about 7:06 this morning, our officers responded to a vehicle collision involving a pedestrian at North Pleasantburg Drive in Mallory. Upon arrival, they found a juvenile in the roadway who had been struck by a car. Early indications show that the two juveniles were walking along the sidewalk on North Pleasantburg when a vehicle had left the roadway and struck one of the juveniles and then also struck a telephone pole. The juvenile was transported to the hospital in serious with life-threatening condition, and the driver of the vehicle that hit the juvenile on the telephone pole was also transported with non-life-threatening injuries.
And it's our understanding there were two cars involved that led up to this crash?
Early indications showed that. We're not certain at this time. We're still investigating that at this time.
Any idea what caused the driver to hit the child or what?
We're not sure at this time. Our investigation is in the very early stages, so until we can determine exactly what caused the collision, once we figure that out, we'll release that as well.
You deal a lot with collisions, from what I understand. When you're going there, when you're on the scene, what are some signs there that you look for in terms of direction?
There's a lot of stuff we look for, a lot of evidence, if you would, of a collision and a reconstruction investigation, which this is. We're looking for marks in the roadway, vehicle parts that may have come off the car, marks in the grass. Of course, the telephone pole that was struck is part of it. So any kind of evidence that'll help us determine skid marks, that'll help us determine speed or what led up to this collision.
Can you give us an idea of what this area is typically like traffic-wise? Is there a lot of pedestrians typically walking in this area?
I wouldn't say there's a lot of pedestrians. It's a highly traveled roadway. As y'all know, it's six lanes of traffic, and it's a highly traveled roadway by vehicles. But pedestrian traffic, it's not a lot.
Lieutenant, did you release the gentleman's name, driver's name?
No, I do have the driver's name of the PT cruiser that was involved in the collision, and it's Norman Gardner is his name.
Can you give us his age and where he's from?
I believe he's 56 years of age. He's from Greenville.
And are there any charges pending against him at this point?
Again, it's so early on in the investigation. Once we determine what happened, who's at fault for the collision, if you would, who contributed to the collision, we won't know that for a while. There's a lot of legwork involved in traffic accident reconstruction, so it's going to be some time before we know exactly what happened.
You may have mentioned it a little bit too, and I know it's so early on in the investigation, but two cars involved here. At this point, from what we know, can you kind of describe the role of those two cars in this situation?
Again, I don't want to release any of that because we're not certain there were two cars. That was early indications. We're looking into that now, trying to, I guess, verify the information as it comes in. It's, as I said before, on traffic collisions that we've worked. Typically, the information that comes in pretty quick early on. We got to take all that information, decipher what's fact, what's true, what's not true, and go from there. So, early indications of this one stated there was a second car involved. As we're investigating this, we're not so sure. So, not saying there wasn't, not saying there was. That's something we're looking into to determine.
Have you talked to witnesses? If so, what have you said?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked to witnesses?
There's some witnesses who we spoke to early on, and we're working to gather that information as well.
Can you tell us anything they've said that's been...
Not at this point. I want to make sure before we start releasing factual stuff that it is factual.
Can you give us an idea of why the kids were on the sidewalk?
From what I'm being told, they were walking to school this morning. There's a school not far from where they were.
Lieutenant Johnson, are we asking for the public's help?
Yeah, we are asking for the public's help. If anybody saw anything prior to this collision, vehicles traveling down the road, high rate of speed, or whatever they may have seen that could help us determine what happened, we would appreciate that information. If they'll just call the police department, that'd be a great help.
And I know this is an ongoing investigation, but can you tell us anything about what it is that has called into question whether there was two cars and why you initially believe that and what kind of...
Just as we're investigating, we're finding out more information. So that information that we're finding out, like I said, I'm not saying there wasn't, I'm not saying there was, but there's kind of a discrepancy we're trying to straighten out.
Typically speaking, when you go to a scene, not this case in general, but just any kind of case involving cars and collisions, are you guys able to tell directionally just based off of the, I guess, really kind of the damage that you're looking at? I mean,
As far as direction of travel of vehicle early on?
just kind of...
I mean, this one particular, I mean, in all collisions, usually some of them are pretty easy to tell the direction they were traveling prior to the collision, just from markings in the roadway. Maybe witness statements help us with that. But this one was pretty easy for us to determine which way they were traveling prior to the collision.
Is there any indication of how fast they were going?
Not at this time. Like I said, there's a lot of legwork that goes into trying to determine that. There's a lot of evidence we have to look at, examine. So until we can do all that, we won't know for certain a speed, if we can come up with one. Sometimes you can't.
Did the PT Cruiser hit the child, or did another car?
No, the PT Cruiser did.
And you may not be able to speak to this again, but I know that it was initially thought that it was a road rage incident. Can you tell what it was that led you to believe that, kind of the behavior of the cars leading up?
Again, I'm not going to really say, and I hate to think, I'm not trying to evade your questions, but I just don't want to say yet until again, I like to release factual stuff and not hearsay, if you would, or information that may not be correct. So we're looking into all that. We're trying to determine that. Was there road rage involved? Was there another vehicle involved? That's all the questions that we want to find out answers as well. You know, there's several avenues, witnesses, video. We're going to be looking at video from businesses, trying to get video. And if there's any business owners that are going to be watching this or listening to this, if they have video of this collision or prior to of the vehicles involved or the vehicle involved, please contact us as well, because that'll help our investigation tremendously.
Guys, I have no idea what he's going to say, but Lieutenant Johnson, is there any difference that a child's involved, possibly with, obviously involved in life-threatening injuries? How does that affect a police officer when they come on scene?
Children affect us in a certain way, especially if we have children ourselves. Anytime there's a child involved, it affects us. It does not change our investigation. Whether it's a child or an adult, we're going to investigate it the same way. We want to determine what happened, what caused the collision, why did it happen. But when there's a child involved, it's hard for us. It's especially hard emotionally. So yeah, it's a hard thing to deal with.
We just want to clarify too. At this point, do we know, were they just kind of walking on the sidewalk?
They were walking on the sidewalk. That's correct.
Anything else, guys? Thank you very much. Thank you, Lieutenant Johnson.
Thank you.
That was your sound.
Will you spell that guy's name?
Norman, Gardner, Gardner.
One more time, sir.
Thank you.
And guys, just for clarification, he has not been charged with anything at this point.
Yeah, there's no charges.
They're possible, but he has not been charged.
We got to do a lot of like